Okay, now that we've gotten sort of the conceptual, more high level stuff out of the way, and I've given you an overview of the mindset that you need to have and how the money tree method actually works, now it's time for us to get started actually creating our first product. Because that's the first step, is creating something for us to sell. If we want to make sales online, we've got to have something to sell. So this is how we do it. Now, I'm calling this video 12-hour product creation. Now, 12 hours is the goal. I'm at the point where I can do this in about 12 hours. Now, I don't mean, I start at 6 o'clock in the morning and I end at 6 o'clock at night because you're going to take breaks and all that other stuff. What I mean is 12 solid hours of work. So if you started a timer every time you started working, by the time you hit 12 hours, you should have your first product finished. Now, the first time you do this, maybe even the second time you do this, it may take you a little bit longer, but that's okay. The main thing is that you do it. Okay, so this is sort of the way to do it as quickly and in as streamlined a fashion as possible. Okay, so in this module, I'll take you through the process of creating your first product in just 12 hours total of work. And our goal is to create a product that we can sell that solves a major problem that people have. Now, I know you might be, freaking out, like going, I don't know if I can do this, but trust me, you can. I know you can, because people much less intelligent than you have done this in the past and done it very successfully. So, before we start, let me just tell you really quickly the secret to being ultra productive, okay? The secret to high-level productivity is uninterrupted blocks of time, okay? Now, usually that's 2 to 3 hours where you focus only on one thing. Okay, so do not multitask. Identify the most important income producing tasks that you have to get through with that day and just work in 1 hour blocks. So what I like to do is I like to set a timer where I'll do 45 minutes of work and then I'll take a 15-minute stretch break. And once I start that timer, I turn off Facebook, I turn off, any email, any websites where I like to go to waste time, any of that stuff, and I just focus on this one thing this one thing that I'm trying to do. So I shut off Facebook, Skype, Twitter, all that other stuff. I turn on some music that focuses me, using Pandora or using Spotify, and I put my head down and I just go to work. Now that's the biggest secret of productivity that I can give you. Every morning, wake up in the morning, look at your to-do list, isolate the most important things. Okay, so don't spend time, I don't know, like taking your car to the car wash or like returning videos or whatever if you have work to do. Focus on the most important income producing stuff, block out serious blocks of uninterrupted time and go to work. And I like to set a timer and go 45 minutes, no breaks, just go, 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 go. No multitasking, focusing only on one thing. And when the 45 minutes are up, I'll take a 15-minute break. If you can do that for 2 to 3 hours every morning, you can change your life and get more done than you ever thought possible. Okay, so step one of creating a product is to brainstorm. Okay, the first question is this, because we have to figure out what need are we going to meet? What problem are we going to solve? So the first place to start is with your own life and your own personal experience. So the first question to ask is this: what problems have you personally solved or overcome? So I want you to really take a second and think about that, because the little voice inside your head, the little voice that keeps you in your comfort zone, that little voice that wants to sabotage you from changing your life or from being successful or from doing anything that might be a little bit unfamiliar, is going to tell you, it's going to whisper in your ear and it's going to tell you, man, you know what? You don't know anything. You don't know anything about anything. You've never done anything good. You've never solved a problem that anybody would care about. So you're wasting your time. It's up to you to overcome that voice, just like I did. And believe me, that voice came on strong when I first thought about quitting my bartending job. I was so terrified to not have a steady job and to try to make money online that my subconscious did everything that it could to sabotage me. So ask yourself this question: what problems have you solved or overcome? Now, there may be something obvious. Maybe you had a terrible marriage and you were able to resurrect it. Maybe your relationship wasn't working out and you were able to fix your relationship. Maybe you used to be 85 pounds overweight and you managed to lose the weight through diet and exercise. It could be anything that you've accomplished, anything that you've done that other people might be interested in knowing how to do themselves. So start with that. What problems have you personally solved or overcome? Question number 2. What do you know how to do that other people want to know how to do? Now, for me, I hadn't really overcome any problems to speak of, but the one thing that I felt like I had a pretty good understanding of was relationships. So that's what I did my first product about. The other thing that I knew and understood was martial arts. I'd done martial arts my whole life, so I probably could have just as easily made a product about that. So I'm just asking you these questions to sort of get the wheels turning, to get you reaching back into your own experience and asking yourself, what knowledge do you have that could be valuable to other people? Question number 3, if you've got nothing, okay, if you ask yourself these questions and you really cannot think of anything, then what we want to do is to pick a proven market that you are interested in and see what's out there and make something better. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to make a list of 5 to 10 potential ideas to tackle as best you can, and ask yourself, is this something that you are passionate about? So what is a problem that you can solve? What's a problem that you've solved in the past for yourself? What do you know how to do that other people want to know how to do? Or what markets or niches are you a part of that you could solve a problem there? So, for example, if you're really into rock climbing, maybe there's a problem that rock climbers have that you could solve. Maybe you could publish a guide to the best climbs and how to successfully climb them. Anything like that. Whatever it is. So I want you to take a second. I want you to brainstorm right now. Don't limit yourself. See what your brain will come up with and write down 5 to 10 potential ideas of products that you could create. Okay? All right, so now what we need to do is take this list of ideas and check and see if they're viable. Because just because an idea sounds good to us, it doesn't mean that it's going to sell really well. So there's a few places that I want you to go to just sort of check these different ideas that we have and see what's selling well and what's not selling well. And we can base our decision on what the decision of what our product is going to ultimately be based on what we find. Okay, so the first place I want you to go is the ClickBank Marketplace. That's www.clickbank.com. And I'm going to give you a quick tour of all these places in just a minute. I just want to go through them right now, and then I'm actually going to go in there and show you what they look like. So if you've never been to ClickBank and you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, I'm going to show you what I mean. What ClickBank is it's a massive, huge marketplace for people to sell information products. It is sort of the heart and soul of what we call direct response marketing on the internet. And if you don't know what I mean by direct response, what I mean is somebody clicks on an ad, clicks through to your web page, and we offer them something for sale, and they either buy it or they don't. So that's what we call direct response. The person either pulls out their credit card and buys, or they don't. And that's the kind of marketing that we're doing. Now that's different from like branding marketing, which is what you usually see on, commercials and things like that. It's like if you see a commercial for Oldsmobile, they're not expecting you to, jump out of your seat and go buy a car. If you see a commercial for Hyundai, they're not expecting you to jump out of your seat and go buy a car. It's more a branding thing. It's about awareness. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we actually expect the person to click through to our site, pull out their credit card, and buy something from us. And that is what the ClickBank Marketplace is all about. So it's a fantastic place to do market research, because what we can do is go there and see what's selling and what's not. And if we have an idea and similar products that solve that same problem are selling well, that's a really good sign. It shows us that there's a market for that kind of a solution. So that's the first place I want you to go. And again, I'll show you how to get there in just a minute. The second place is one that you're probably a little bit more familiar with. It's Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, any major bookstore. So if you're just sitting at your computer, it's probably easier to do it on Amazon. But sometimes I like to walk over to Barnes & Noble because I have one right by my place and just go and poke around and see what I can find. Now, the questions you want to ask yourself are this. This topic, this niche, this problem that that you're thinking about creating a product about, are people irrationally passionate about it? So you want to go to Amazon and you want to read the book reviews. What are people complaining about? What are they excited about in the book reviews, and what are they complaining about? Where's the unmet need in the marketplace? Okay, so let me just break this down a little bit. Let's say that you are thinking about doing a product about how to have a better relationship. So you want to go to Amazon, and what you want to see are a lot of books about this that are selling well. Now you might ask me, Russ, wait a minute, if there's already a lot of books about this, doesn't it mean that it's tapped out and there's all this competition and there's other people who have already had this idea? Well, yes, but that's actually a good thing. So if you come to me and you're like, Russ, I want to do a book about, underwater, playing lacrosse underwater on Mars, and that's going to be your big product, I'm going to look at Amazon and say, hey, wait, you know what? No one is talking about that. No one is writing about that. No one is thinking about that. So that probably tells you that there's no money in it. Does that make sense? Whereas if you tell me, Russ, I'm going to make a product about how to save someone's relationship, and I go to Amazon and I see tons of books about that, that's a great sign. Because if there's tons of books about it, it means that people are actually making money talking about that. And that is what we want to see. So you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and first of all, you see are these books selling or are they not selling? Are other people talking about this problem? Are other people writing books designed to solve this problem? And if the answer is yes, I want you to take a look at the book reviews and I want you to read them. And I want you to pay special attention to the negative reviews. Because every time somebody leaves a negative review for a book, it's usually because there was something that they wanted to learn from that book that they didn't learn. And so every time you see one of those negative reviews, it's like your customer base tapping you on the shoulder and say, hey man, I want to learn this. So whenever you see one of those negative reviews complaining about the fact that they wanted to learn something that they didn't learn, you need to make a note of that, because that's a pretty good indicator that there is an unmet need in the marketplace. So there's books about the topic that you want to cover, but there's something that those books are leaving out. There's something that those books are not covering, and that shows you where the opening is in the marketplace for you to sweep in and speak to those people where they are. Okay? Now the third place I want you to go is forums. Now the way to find forums is just to Google the name of your niche, the name of your market, and type the word forums. So if you're into kayaking, you can type kayaking forums into Google, and it'll give you a bunch of forums about kayaking. Now what a forum is, it's a site where people can discuss, talk about certain topics, they can post, they can ask questions, they can reply to each other, and so forth. Now on forums, the great thing about it is that you're going to basically come face to face with your potential marketplace. If you go to a kayaking forum, I guarantee you the people that are hanging out there are so into kayaking that you wouldn't believe it. So just by poking around in a forum like that, you can find out what they're talking about, what they're thinking about, what their concerns are, what their problems are. If they're asking each other questions, what are they asking those questions about? If they're complaining, what are they complaining about? If they're excited about stuff, what are they excited about? So go to those forums and just start browsing around. If I were you, I would start making an account for yourself and start contributing to the discussion a little bit. So by going to those three places, ClickBank, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and forums, you'll get a very, very good cross-section of what your market is interested in and whether or not products catered towards your marketplace are selling well. Okay? Now, believe it or not, again, competition is great. Competition is proof that you're on to a money-making idea. If there's no competition, I would never go into that market, because chances are there isn't any money to be made there. I mean, there really is true that there's almost nothing new under the sun. So is it possible that you've thought of something that no one has ever thought of before? Sure, it's possible. But it's much more likely that other people have thought of it and tried it and didn't make any money at it and abandoned it if you don't see any competition. So you do definitely want to see competition. So that's very important. So here's the sort of the checklist, okay? In order for it to be a quality idea, first of all, is it something that you are passionate about? Now you might say, Russ, well, why does that matter? Why do I have to be passionate about something? I mean, if I'm just going to create a product just to make a little extra money, who cares how I feel about it? Well, that's not exactly true. I feel that it should be something that you are passionate about, or something that you're at least interested in. Because if it's a topic that you're not interested in, you're not going to do as good of work, as thorough of work, as if it was something that you were interested in. So like, I'm interested in martial arts, I'm interested in relationships, I'm interested in online marketing, I'm interested in self-improvement. Those are the things that I'm interested in. I would not go and do a product probably about survivalism, or like how to prepare for Armageddon or something, because that's just not something I care about and not something I think about, so why do a product about it? So first question to ask yourself, are you passionate about this? Number two, like we said, go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, go to forums, go to ClickBank, and ask yourself, are other people passionate about this as well? Are there books about this? Are there forums about this? That's a really good sign. Are there products on ClickBank that are selling well? And finally, do these people have disposable income? So if I were you, I would not create a product, for like Pakistanis, because they don't have any money. So you want to make sure that whoever you're catering to has disposable income. All right. Now, if you have an idea that fits all of these criteria, something that you're passionate about, that other people are passionate about, there's books about it, there's forums about it, there's maybe a product or two on ClickBank selling well about it, and this marketplace has disposable income, then you have a viable market to go into. Now, what I want you to do is make a note of the resources that you find. So if you find books on Amazon, if you find websites on ClickBank selling similar stuff, I want you to just copy and paste the link. So like take notes to yourself so you can find these resources again later, because we're going to need to refer back to them later. Okay. So before we get into finding the problem, let me just show you really quickly what these websites look like and what to look for. All right, now this is the ClickBank Marketplace. Now the way that you get here is you go to clickbank.com, you sign up for a free account, and then you click this little button up here in the upper right that says Marketplace. You click that button and that's going to take you to the Marketplace. Now what this is it's a directory of all the different products that are for sale on ClickBank, and there are products about everything. How to get a job. So over here on the left, these are the categories. Okay, so you've got arts and entertainment, betting systems, business and investing, computers and internet, cooking, food and wine, e-business and e-marketing, etc., 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 all the way down the line. Spirituality, new age, alternative beliefs. I mean, products about everything that you can imagine. So what I would do if I were you is, let's say, for example, that you want to create a product about health. I would click on the health and fitness thing, and I would see what's converting on ClickBank. So when you click on a category, it automatically sorts things by popularity. Now, what that means is that the products at the top of this list are making more sales than the products at the bottom of this list. So the best-selling products are at the top. So here's one called Fat Loss Factor. Here's one called Muscle Maximizer, Truth About Abs. So this looks like these are all the best-selling products here, are products about how to get in shape. Now, I don't know what your particular take on this might be. Like, let's say that you're a paleo diet enthusiast. You're somebody who loves to eat paleo, okay? And you're thinking about creating a product about that. So I'd click on cooking, food, and wine, and let's see what we can find. Oh, look at this. The number one product here is a paleo recipe book. It looks to be selling really well. The gravity is nice and high. Now, we don't have time to get into what gravity is right now, and you really don't need to know, but high gravity basically means it's selling better than if there's low gravity. So gravity of 145 is pretty damn good. So let me just click on this and open up this page and see what we can find. So this is the sales page for the Paleo Recipe Cookbook, and it's selling really well. So that goes to show you that, you know what, it's very possible that you could come in here and create one of your own and do fine. So like, this is a paleo cookbook. This is a gluten-free cookbook. This is a paleo cookbook. Caveman Feast. This is another paleo cookbook. And all of these are selling reasonably well. So right there, that shows you that yes, on ClickBank you've got a proven idea. So that's what I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is go to ClickBank and see if there are other products being sold that deal with the same sort of thing that your product deals with. And if the answer is yes, then that's a really good sign. So now I'm going to click over to Amazon. Now let's just look for like kayaking on Amazon. Okay, great. Obviously, we're seeing, yes, there are books about kayaking. There's 17,600 books about kayaking, in fact. They're selling really well. These ones up here have great customer reviews. So what I would do is, if I was doing a book about kayaking, I would click on this, and I would look down, and I would look through the reviews, and I would see what people like about it, what people don't like about it. And it looks like this book actually has 100% positive reviews. But if there were some negative reviews, what I would do is look at those and read through them and see what they wanted to learn that they didn't learn. But these positive reviews are just as valuable. So like, so let's see, Robinson provides something for everyone. He thoroughly presents a comprehensive range of basic paddling skills and sprinkles them among them subtle insights, tips, and tricks derived from his impressive paddling career. So you know that if you're really into kayaking and you want to make a product about kayaking, that might be one thing that you want to cover, is all the different paddling techniques. So there's a really wealth of information here as far as getting to know your marketplace and getting to know the people that are going to buy your book. So what I would do as well is I would jot down the name, and I would just do it like on a simple text file. So let me just pull up my notepad. So now I've got my little notepad here. What I would do is I would just bookmark the web address of this book, so I have it for reference later when I'm going to create my product and I want to do a little bit more research. That's a good place to do it. And if I found stuff on ClickBank, I would jot down the website of those things as well, just so you can keep track of all that stuff. Okay. And then finally, the third place we want to go is Google. So what I'm going to do is go to Google and type in kayaking forum. Look at this, kayak building forum, kayaking and canoeing at www.paddling.net. Let's see what we can find here. So this looks like a bunch of different articles about kayaking and paddling. There's a lot of products on here. Let me see if do I see a forum here? Maybe not. Let's see. Kayak forum. Here we go. kayakmagazine.com/forum. Okay, great. So this is a forum where people are talking about kayaking. So you can poke around in here, see what people are talking about. What are some of your favorite things about kayaking? what's the best water temperature that's safe to kayaking. You know what I mean? So like you can see what these people are talking about. Now, if I was going to do a product about kayaking, I would address this question. I would say, what is the ideal water temperature to go kayaking? So this just poking around in these forums, and you can see kayaking is like a really obscure thing, but there's already like a whole bunch of forums about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kayakcrazy.com. It's another kayak forum. I mean, so you can tell, yeah, okay, there's people talking about this stuff. People are really into this. People are excited about it. There's books on Amazon about it. I don't know if there's any products on ClickBank, but if there's products on ClickBank, that's great. So those are the things that you want to look for when you go and you do your market research. And all the resources that you find, I would just jot them down in a quick notepad file so that you have a bunch of links that you can return to later to get some more information. Okay, so now we just covered how to find the market. We know that kayaking is a good market. We know that people are excited about kayaking. So let's say that that's what we're going to create our product about. So once you know your market, the next question to ask is this: what is their most urgent problem? Okay, so the more you can design your product to solve the most pressing problem at the forefront of that market's mind, the easier time you will have selling it. Okay, let me say that again. The more that you can design your product to solve the number one problem that market is wrestling with, the easier time you're going to have selling it. So for example, let's say that you wanted to create a product about how to have a better relationship. Is that the most pressing problem at the forefront of that market's mind? I mean, do people walk around thinking, God, I wish I had a better relationship? Maybe, but that's not really quite as urgent as saying, save my relationship. Okay, so in other words, have a better relationship. It's like I have a girlfriend, relationship is okay, I want to make it better. Is it super urgent? No. Now what about this though? I literally just got dumped and I really want to get my girlfriend back. I really want to save my relationship. That's more urgent. So is that the most urgent thing? Well, probably not. What about saving your marriage? That's even more urgent because now there's money involved, there's kids involved. It's a much bigger deal to save someone's marriage than it is to save their relationship. So you see what I'm saying? So what you want to find is if once you know, okay, I want to make a product about relationships, you want to ask yourself, well, what is the most urgent, most pressing problem that you can solve? Because that's going to be the thing that is easiest for you to sell, okay? So to find that out, you can go back to those forums, you can go back to those books, you can go back to ClickBank and start to ask yourself that question. What is the biggest problem that these people have that they're wrestling with right now? Okay, so to find this information, we use the same resources as before. What are the top selling products on ClickBank for this market? What problem are they solving? What are the best selling books on Amazon? What problem do they solve? What topics keep coming up again and again on the forums that people keep asking and asking about? By doing this kind of research, we eliminate guesswork. So you can tell, you know that if the number one product on ClickBank for this marketplace solves this one specific problem, there's a bunch of books on Amazon about how to solve this problem. When you go to the forums, people are asking over and over about this problem. Now you know, okay, this is something that I can definitely tackle with a product, and I know for sure there's going to be a market for it. So you don't have to just sit there and guess. You can actually go out there and see that there's a market for it, and then now you've got a sure thing, okay? So now we know the market that we're after and we know the problem that we're solving. So now it's time to create the solution. So what you want to do is go through that list of ideas that you originally made and check those ideas in these places that I've told you to go check them. And when you find something that's viable, then that's what you want to do. Now, keep trying, okay? Keep searching, keep looking. If you came up with 5 ideas and it turns out that none of those 5 ideas are going to work, come up with 5 more. Just keep going until you find something that you feel confident that you can do a product about. Now, there's one issue that comes up again and again whenever people talk about how to do this, and that issue is this: but I'm not an expert, okay? And this is something that I wrestled with when I was creating my first product. I was like, look, I want to do a product about relationships. I feel like I know a little bit about relationships, but I certainly don't have, some kind of like foolproof system, and I certainly don't have any letters after my name or anything like that. So this sort of self-doubt tends to creep in, and there's a couple things that you need to know because you might be feeling something similar. First of all, God does not come down from heaven and anoint you an expert, okay? Like, some people think Dr. Phil is an expert, some people think Dr. Phil is a complete fraud. The fact that he's a doctor is great, but I know some people that aren't doctors that know a hell of a lot more about relationships than Dr. Phil. They just don't have the credentials. So to be honest, it doesn't really matter whether you have letters after your name or not. What matters is that you have a solution, a system for solving this problem that works, okay? And let me tell you something else. A skilled marketer will make more money than an expert every single time. So let's say for a second that there's two guys. There's Andrew and there's Bob. Okay? Now Andrew has a PhD, he's got all the letters in the world after his name, he doesn't know anything about marketing, and he goes and creates a product. Okay? And then there's Bob. And Bob doesn't have any letters after his name and knows a little bit about this topic, but he's a brilliant marketer. Bob, the brilliant marketer, will make more money than Andrew, the brilliant expert, every time. And the reason is this: Andrew's product might be superior, but if he doesn't know how to make sales, no one is ever going to see it. So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind, guys. Any marketplace that you go into, just because you have the information in this course, you have a massive advantage over the people who are the so-called experts. And that advantage is that you know how to sell your stuff, and chances are they don't. Okay? So here's another thing to think about. We are not creators of information. We are organizers of information, okay? So if you're going to create a product about how to save your marriage or something like that, I don't expect you to sit there at your computer and out of the top of your head come up with some brand new brilliant way to save a marriage that no one ever thought of before. What you need to do is go out there and find other people's good ideas that are out there and organize them and build on them and make them your own to create something new. So everything that I'm teaching you now, guys, is stuff that I learned from other marketers in the course of my internet marketing career. Now, some of the stuff they taught me worked, and some of the stuff they taught me didn't work. But what I'm doing now is distilling the stuff that did work and adding a little sprinkle of my own stuff to organize this to a step-by-step system that you can follow. Okay, so you are not sitting there to create some brand new solution out of thin air. Okay, what you're doing is going out there, doing a little bit of research, finding the best ideas, and organizing them into a step-by-step framework that people can follow, and you're building on it to create something new. So a good way to think of it is like this. Think back to high school, think back to college if you went to college, and just think of it like a term paper, okay, or like a thesis, okay. Your professor comes to you and he says, "Hey, here's the deal. You have a project that's due. I want you to write a paper on how to save your marriage, and it's due in 30 days, and it's 98% of your letter grade." Well, what would you do? Would you sit there and go, "Oh God, I don't know anything about this"? No. You would go out there and you'd hustle and you'd do the research and you'd write the friggin' paper. You wouldn't plagiarize. You'd come up with your own ideas and you would get it done. That's the exact same mindset that you need to go into this with. You don't plagiarize, but you go out there and you build on the ideas that are already out there and you make them your own. And that is something that anybody can do because there are kids in college, every single college in every single country all over the world who are doing it right now. The only difference is that they're doing it for a letter grade and you're doing it to build a business that'll pay you again and again for the rest of your life. So if nothing else, you should be even more motivated than they are. All right? Now, we figured out the market that we want to get into. Okay? We've identified the most high stakes problem within that market. Now what we need to do is come up with an A to B solution for solving that problem. Okay? Now here's how you want to look at this. What your customer wants is they don't want a bunch of random information. They don't want a bunch of random like gibberish about this thing. So in other words, they don't want to know everything there is to know about kayaking. They don't want to know everything there is to know about saving their marriage, okay? They just want to get from point A, where they have this problem, to point B, where they don't have it, okay? So it's like point A, I'm getting picked on. Point B, I'm really good at self-defense and really confident. Okay, point A, my marriage isn't working. Point B, my marriage is working perfectly and I'm super happy and so is my wife. Okay, that's it. So the most efficient way for you to lay out your course is just to show people the steps from point A to point B. Now the easiest way to do that is to break it up into milestones. So let's say over here on the left we have point A. There might be one milestone that they have to go through, another milestone they have to go through, and then you arrive at point B. So that's how I want you to begin to think about your product, okay? So you don't need to make it sort of a comprehensive encyclopedic guide to marriage, okay? You just need to get them from point A to point B, and that's it. Your marriage isn't working. Now your marriage is working. How do we get there? Well, maybe step 1 is to figure out what you've been doing wrong. Maybe step 2 is to learn how to communicate with your partner. Maybe step 3 is to actually do some of that stuff and to create a little bit of fun. Maybe step 4 is to deal with problems that are going on. I mean, if there's someone's cheating or if there's trust issues or whatever. And this is just, guys, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. But if you start to look at your products this way, it really starts to become a little bit more obvious. Okay, so let's say, let me do another one off the top of my head. Let's say you're doing one about martial arts. Point A is you're not confident, and if you got in a fight, you get your ass kicked. Point B is you know how to defend yourself. Okay, great. So what's milestone number one? Well, the first step then is to maybe understand the mindset that goes into being a great martial artist. Okay, maybe step two is to understand the difference between someone who can do martial arts in a classroom and someone who can do martial arts on the street. Okay, maybe step three is to figure out how to be more aware so that you have an awareness of what's going on around you so you don't get caught off guard. And so on and so on and so on. Does that make sense? And so much of this, guys, is just common sense. Just sitting there and brainstorming this out until you figure out sort of a framework to deal with the problem, okay? So the most logical way for you to organize your solution is to think in terms of point A to point B, the journey from having the problem to not having the problem. So let's start with point A. What I want you to do is to define point A in simple emotional terms, okay? Now, if you've been there, if you've had this problem yourself, I want you to think back to how it felt to be there. What were you worried about at night when you woke up in the middle of the night? What were you scared of? What were your biggest concerns? How did it feel to be there? Okay? Then I want you to define point B. How does it feel to be there? How's it going to feel when you've got this ability to walk down the street with all the confidence in the world, knowing that you're aware of everything that's happening around you, knowing that if a potential somebody who comes up to you is a potential threat, you know how to deal with that situation. You know how to handle that. How does that feel? What does that confidence feel like? And then number four, I want you to chart the shortest possible path from point A to point B. So what I like to do is actually sit down with a blank sheet of paper and just write it down. And draw a big circle that says A, and draw a big circle that says B, and draw a line connecting them, and break that up into milestones. Okay, so it might look like this. Let's say, for example, that you were doing a product for parents, teaching them, for parents whose kids are being bullied, to help them stop the bullying. Okay, so step one would be to sit down and write a vivid emotional description of how it feels to have your kid be in that situation and how you want things to be when it's over. Then step two would be to chart a course from point A to point B in the fewest number of steps possible. So to get ideas, I would skim the top 3 books on the subject. I would scan for forum posts about it. I might even buy some competitors' products to see how they approach the problem. So step 1, child's being bullied. Or point A, child's being bullied. Point B, the child is healthy and safe. Okay? How are you going to get people from point A to point B? All right? So let's break it down. Here's a basic outline of what the milestones might be. Okay, so at point A, the child's being bullied. All right, so you're a parent. You suspect your child is being bullied. Well, what is the first thing you have to do? Well, obviously, the first thing you got to do is figure out what's going on. Why is your kid acting this way? I mean, is your child really being bullied? How do you know? So the first thing you got to do is figure out what's really going on. The second thing you'd want to do is to make a record of everything that's happened. Where is it taking place? Who is involved? So that you have evidence to take to the school. The next step would be to get the school involved. What are they going to do to stop this? Are they going to increase supervision in the areas where this is taking place? Are they going to intervene in some way? And then if the school doesn't do anything about it, well, how do you escalate further? How do you go to the school board? How do you go to the cops if necessary? How do you go to the state? Now, also, you don't just want to stop the bullying. You also want to empower your child so that your child is safe and confident. And then point B, your child is healthy and safe. Your child's healthy, there's no bullying going on, and your child feels really confident and emotionally healthy. Okay? So that's it. So this is a basic framework for a product right here. This is a basic outline of what the milestones might be. So from here, once you have these milestones, you break them down into actual steps. Okay, so step 1, uncover what's going on. How do we do that? How do you get your kid to open up? What's the best way to know for sure what's happening? What's the best way to document? How do you engage with the school, etc., etc.? So you want to put together a step-by-step game plan, and that is the basic framework for your product, okay? So what you want to do is sit down, research, and brainstorm until you have an outline of what you need. Now, for this part of the process, I use a free website called workflowy.com, which is a fantastic brainstorming tool, and it's free, and it just really helps me organize my thoughts. So what I would do is I just sit down and outline your entire path from A to B. And if you have to, do a little research in books and on forums and stuff, that's totally fine. Do that. Give yourself some ideas and solve this problem, okay? Now, if you get stuck, In addition to the research bots we just mentioned before, there's a really great website called justanswer.com. Okay, justanswer.com. And what that is it's a collection of real life experts who have been thoroughly vetted, who do have the letters after their name. And what you can do is for like $10, you can ask them a question and they will give you a detailed answer. Another thing you can do is if there are forums, you can post your question to the forums and get the perspective of the community. All right? Now, you want to just have at this point an outline of your course, an outline that takes people from point A to point B. And once your outline is finished, you have a roadmap. And that roadmap will enable you to create an infinite number of books, products, workshops, etc. A key principle behind doing this kind of marketing is that people will pay more for the same information delivered in different ways. So for example, you could take that outline and you could turn that outline into an ebook, okay, and you can sell that. You can take that exact same information and turn it into an audio course, and then you can sell that. You can take that exact same information and turn it into a video course, and then sell that. Because people will pay more for the same information delivered in different ways. The simplest example of this is if you ever go and you buy one of Tony Robbins' books, like Awaken the Giant Within, which is a great book. It's a book that lays out his system for self-improvement. Now, he's got that, which was, I think, like $30 when it first went on sale. And he's also got his audio course, Personal Power. That was like $200 when it first went on sale. Now, the information in Awaken the Giant Within is pretty much the same information that's in Personal Power. It's just that in Awaken with the Giant Within, it's a book. Personal Power, it's a CD audio course. Same information, two different forms of media. A book versus an audio course, and people will buy both. And I know because I have both. Okay, so this outline is sort of the skeleton. It's the roadmap for you to create an infinite number of products dealing with this problem. So again, all you have to do is figure out what problem you're going to solve and come up with an outline that gets people from point A to point B. And that's it. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I'll see you in the next video.